All right, everyone, I'm back. Of course, the big news of the day, everything Trump arraignment. There are some shenanigans and kerfuffles going on the other day. We've got CNN, of course, determining that it's not newsworthy, the entire thing, actually post-arraignment, when everyone else is following Trump around, of course. You know, if you're a news network, legacy media especially, you probably want some shots of Trump going about his day while he's there and your people are available in there. And you probably want to try to ask him a question. You may be limited in what you can ask when there's 20,000 security agents surrounding him. But you try. It's called journalism. CNN decided that it's not newsworthy enough for us. Yes, our very upstanding, very popular network that is routinely dwarfed by all the other major legacy networks, to the point where we're bitching about Tucker Carlson being irrelevant on a regular basis, despite the fact that he can get 10 times as many viewers in an hour than we can get cross-slot for our entire news day. I loved that one. I love some of the propaganda that's coming out, too. Somebody tipped me off about, well, Trump, is it true? They asked me, is it true that Trump has been assigned a probation officer? And I said, no, that's fake news. Probation officers are assigned once you have been found guilty of something and been given probation. He's been given a pretrial officer, which is standard procedure in such cases. So no, Trump does not have a probation officer. The reason why they're saying that is because it sounds fun. It sounds nice. You also had a moment, a security breach actually, when the arraignment was being left. Most of the people that showed up, of course, supporting Trump. It looks like some thousands of them actually. A few anti-Trump protesters went there too, though. And a small group of people tried to get in front of the motorcade, one dude doing so successfully. He got very quickly nailed by the Secret Service. By the way, that's not a good idea, because they're not messing around. This isn't the Portland Police Department. They'll actually do their job, and Trump's private security is there as well. So you got a double wall of defense. This is, by the way, the one reason why it might be harder for the Uniparty if Trump, proceeds politically anyway and they fail in their endeavor to stop him. So they don't disqualify him from office and they're still worried he'll win. The one thing that protects him is he can hire his own security and isn't fully reliant on Secret Service to protect him. So it's harder to JFK him because it's harder to have like a Secret Service stand-down moment like we saw on some of the tape prior to the elements of the Zapruder film. You may have seen that clip, the Secret Service stand-down, where the Secret Service officers that were supposed to ride the tail fins were told to go away and, do something else instead of ride on the tail fins like they were supposed to be doing in a developed area. Yeah, well, assuming that JFK was shot from the angle they said, that actually would have saved his life. It's very coincidental. I am worried, by the way, at this point with what's going on. Considering the massive breach of civic precedent, the unnecessary nature of such a prosecution when there's no evidence of any sort of a breach of national security. You know what? Like what might have happened with Biden's bribery scandal. The FBI subdirector answering the other day has no clue if there are audio tapes with regards to Joe Biden's bribery scandal. I'm not sure if a foreign national has tapes of Biden as VP on convo with him about business dealings. Well, you should look into it. Maybe you should comb through the records topically. Maybe you'll be able to find that out and see what's going on, an actual scandal, as opposed to the Trump arraignment. And as far as the arraignment itself, of course, cameras aren't even really allowed in the room, so you don't have much. Basically, Trump shows up, he waves to people briefly, he goes in with a frown, he sits there, listens to the judge prattle on about the charges, and enters a plea of not guilty, which was, presumable. Why the fuck would he want a plea deal or something like that? There's no reason why Trump would want to negotiate with these terrorists. And then he leaves. And then he goes over to the Waffle House in order to get a drink, get a waffle or something, I guess. By the way, also, people saying that he might be guilty of a crime. And there's a picture circulating right now of an unconnected incident where Trump was in public with Walt Nauta, who they're not allowed to communicate about the case, of course. It's an ongoing prosecution of both of them. So they're not allowed to coordinate with one another. Their lawyers can talk and cross-train, I guess, but they can't have a conversation about the case. So some of the leftoid groups on Twitter are circulating a picture of Trump and Nauta at an unconnected Waffle House visit, actually. And they're trying to circulate that as though they've been community noted, by the way. They're trying to circulate it as though it happened right after the arraignment. Fact check, that is actually false. The picture comes from comes from earlier. It does not come from the last 24 hours. Anyway, I'm McLovin' it because in the end, if you have, think about the ramifications of what they're doing. We've got 3 polls post-indictment already. They don't show any real statistical movement, so Trump he hasn't surged ahead, but he also hasn't lost any support, it seems, in the latest round of polling. You've got 3 post-indictment polls. They're all within line of what the aggregate's been at. He's still 25, 30, 35 points ahead in the field. He's pretty much got it in the bag at this point. The only one that's going after him from the GOP side is Christie. We'll be talking separately about Ramaswamy, actually. He is one shrewd motherfucker for one thing that he's doing with regards to the Trump indictment. I know what he's doing. It's disingenuous, although it's still useful at the same time. So he's got his win-win situation. He's got his cake and can eat it too. So Ramaswamy, at the very least, he shows strategic intelligence. We'll talk about that in a separate video again a little bit later. Anyway, I'm looking at the situation. Trump, politically speaking, hasn't gone down because of this, so he's presumptively still the GOP's nominee, and the time frame for that would be pre-trial as far as that goes, and then everything would start taking place in the general. Can I please ask anyone in the American public that has 2 neurons to rub together if you don't think that that's a political hatchet job? Joe Biden is involved with the attempted takedown of Donald Trump. Ultimately, their biggest goal is to get him found guilty and then use Congress to try to prevent him from being able to be on the ballot. Whether he's nominee or not, they'll say, well, we realize that the GOP has already chosen Donald Trump, but we can't allow him to run for office. Basically we're disqualifying him. He's not allowed to do so. They changed the law so felons can't run for office. Odd if the liberals vote for it, since they're trying to change the law in numerous states to allow felons to vote, which is also part of the electoral process. We'll get past that. There would be nothing more American, and this is why I still favor Trump to potentially re-win the presidency. There'd be nothing more American than to appreciate someone who's supposedly, anyway, I don't believe the charges against him, but we're assuming he's found guilty, at least on paper, a criminal. That would be very American to do, especially 2 non-consecutive serves Cleveland style. That's only been done once before, so you got a comeback kid story. There'd be nothing more American in this particular moment than to force Trump down the Uniparty's throat, forcing them to obstruct and lie and continue doing the stupid shit they're doing now for another 4 years, waking up more and more people as they realize, hey, things aren't operating the same way that they did for the prior 4 years in the context of the executive branch. The media's done a 180. The bureaus have done a 180. What the fuck is going on here? I'm seeing more and more people, many of which I don't agree with politically in many cases. They're not libertarian-leaning individuals at all. I see them starting to wake up to just how delusional the deep state really has become. They've begun to pull back the curtains, exposing the blank wall at the back of the room. They're starting to grab the tables right now. The thing is that they're revealing their hand to people much more transparently than they typically would like to do. And they don't do that if they're not afraid. The biggest white pill that I can give everyone out there, because people are like, oh my god, it's over, and all that bullshit. Don't get black pilled. The biggest white pill I can give you is that typically when you've got a huge amount of power over another group or function, you don't need to act like this. You try to govern gently. You don't go out of your way to be massively abusive. You don't want to whip the slaves every day because, you'd rather just sit back and not have to put in the effort and not mess with things. You want things to be relaxed. Everyone's happy and shuffling around out in the field, and you just sort of sit there drinking your iced tea. That's the existence that you want. When you have to step in with the bullwhip, there's usually a reason for something significant is going on and it troubles you. You're actually showing fear in that moment. And then so you have to reassert your dominance. You have to do some buck breaking tonight. Well, yeah, the DC establishment would love to fuck us all in the ass, but they normally don't like to tell us about the fact that they're doing so with their actions. That's about all. Peace out.